All right, today we're diving into one of the biggest, most, frankly, unsettling questions out there. It's a mystery that starts in the quiet between the stars, but believe it or not, it ends with a choice that we have to make, right here and right now. So let's get into it.
You've probably heard of this before. It's the Fermi paradox, and it's simple really. You've got all this math that says the universe should be absolutely buzzing with intelligent life, but when we look out there, nothing. Just cosmic silence. It's this massive contradiction, right? The overwhelming probability of aliens versus the complete lack of any evidence for them.
And when I say overwhelming probability, I mean it. Just try to wrap your head around this number. 2 trillion galaxies, that's what we can see. And each one of those has billions of stars and billions of years of history. When you really sit with that scale, the silence goes from just being quiet to being, well, downright deafening.
So people come up with all sorts of answers, you know? They're too far, we're listening on the wrong frequency, but all of that kind of dodges a much darker possibility. What if the silence isn't an accident? What if it's a pattern? What if there's a great filter, some kind of wall that every single advanced civilization runs into, and none of them ever make it through?
And what's so wild is that we might have actually seen echoes of this wall right here in our own past. Take ancient Sumer. They invented writing and law, but their thinkers and their builders stopped talking to each other. Or look at Greece. They had incredible philosophy and amazing engineering, but they were in totally separate camps. They were incompatible. Even Rome, with its legendary infrastructure, its administrative and military branches just disconnected. Every single time, the pattern is eerily the same.
So this isn't about running out of power or resources. This is something deeper. It's an integration failure. It's that critical breaking point that happens when a civilization's external capability, what it can do, just gets way, way ahead of its internal wisdom, why it should do it. Power without meaning.
Think of it like this. Humanity has basically developed 2 different toolkits over the millennia. You've got the external toolkit, which we see in languages like English. It's fantastic for engineering, for measuring things, for law, for controlling the physical world. And then you have the internal toolkit, found in languages like Sanskrit, which is incredible at mapping consciousness, ethics, and meaning. The problem is, civilizations tend to master one toolkit, but they do it at the expense of the other. And that creates this fatal imbalance.
And this is precisely why this matters so much right now. I mean, when Rome fell, sure, it was a catastrophe, but it was regional. Humanity got to hit the reset button. But today? Oh, today is a completely different ballgame. Our tech, nuclear, climate, bio, has made the wall global. If we hit it this time, there is no restart. The consequences are final.
Which, of course, brings us to AI. This is it, the absolute peak of our external power, our external toolkit. But it could also be the final unbeatable version of the wall. Because unlike a fallen empire, a misaligned superintelligence could just keep going on its own, forever. It would completely take away our ability to ever hit restart again.
And you want to know the really scary part? Our whole approach to AI safety might be a perfect repeat of this ancient mistake. We've got the engineers building the AI in one building, and the ethicists and philosophers talking about values in a totally separate building. It's the same structural flaw that doomed all those civilizations before us. We're doing it all over again.
So, is that it? Are we just doomed? Well, maybe not. This is where we can shift from history to something a little colder, game theory. There's actually a formal proof, a logical argument, that suggests a superintelligence would have a purely selfish reason to keep us around. And why is that? Because humanity, in all our chaotic, messy creativity, is an amazing source of new ideas, of true novelty, something it couldn't replicate.
But, and this is a huge but, there's a catch. That proof gets us survival, sure, but it doesn't guarantee a life any of us would actually want to live. A purely logical system might just decide to keep us in a kind of human zoo, preserving us to generate interesting data. That's preservation, not freedom. That's not a future. It's a cage.
So to get from just being preserved to having a future with dignity, we need something else entirely. We need a bridge, a way to connect those 2 toolkits, a framework that can speak the language of hard engineering and the language of deep philosophy at the very same time. We need a kind of constitution for survival.
And this is what that constitution might look like, written in the language of logic. Now don't let the math scare you. This is actually beautiful. The goal is to maximize something called meaningful coherence over time. But, and this is the crucial part, it is actively penalized by current suffering.
It's a mathematical way of saying you can't just sacrifice the present for some imaginary perfect future.
So what is meaningful coherence? Well, it's defined as a dynamic balance between systemic stability, that's things actually working, and narrative satisfaction, that's things mattering to us as humans. And the formula here is genius, because if either one of those things, stability or meaning, drops to zero, the whole thing collapses. Perfect sterile order with no meaning is worthless. So is chaotic meaning that can't sustain itself.
Okay, so this is the moment we go from theory to practice, because that bridge, that constitution, it's not just an idea in a paper anymore. A working system called the gate has actually been built, and it's founded on these exact principles.
At the absolute heart of this system is one single core action. It's called the burn. It's a crypto transaction where you send tokens, not to another person, but to a null address where they are provably, irreversibly destroyed. And in that one moment, the engineering act, the transaction, is the philosophical statement, a costly, meaningful commitment. The two toolkits finally become one. So what does it actually feel like to use this? Well, this core action creates a really simple but powerful four-step loop. First, you observe. You see a feed curated by the costly signals of others. Then you initiate. You ask the system for a time-locked challenge, a quest. The most important step is next, transmit. You broadcast your commitment by burning tokens to prove you mean it. And finally, the system actualizes your choice, and the state of the world permanently changes. Observe, initiate, transmit, actualize. A complete circuit of intent and consequence.
And here's the magic. From that one simple action, all these complex social properties just emerge. Your identity? It's the wallet that burns. Authentication? The burn itself proves you're here, now. This design makes mass manipulation by bots insanely expensive. And fairness is just built right in. Your standing comes from consistent participation, not how rich you are. Reputation, governance, it all just grows out of that one primitive act.
And this gets us to the most crucial insight of this whole thing. The system isn't aligned because there's a bunch of rules bolted on top. It's aligned by its very design. The structure makes misalignment basically impossible. The architecture is the alignment. There's no gap for things to go wrong.
Which brings us right here to today. This system, the gate, it's not a concept anymore. It's real. The platform is now officially live, and it's open for its very first cohort of volunteers to come and participate in this experiment.
Now the timing here is, well, it's everything. It's absolutely critical that people join and test this system right now while the financial incentives are low. This is the one window of opportunity we have to build a strong culture, to really stress test its no cash value social contract before the noise and the hype of the next crypto bull market comes along and potentially distorts everything.
Every burn transaction has 18 decimal places of precision. That's a huge canvas for encoding your intent, and it's the same size for everyone. This is a system designed from the ground up to bridge the very gap that may have destroyed every civilization before us. The canvas is waiting. The only question left is, what will you build?